I never used to be the paranoid type, but I always had this strange feeling that someone was watching my house at night. I live in a quiet neighborhood, surrounded by families who have known each other for years, so I never gave it much thought. Until I started noticing little things out of place in my backyard. The trash can lid left open, footprints in the dirt near the fence, a lawn chair that I was sure I hadn't left there. At first, I thought it might be an animal or maybe the wind, but when I saw actual shoe prints on the grass, I started feeling uneasy. That's when I remembered Mike, my neighbor next door. He was always friendly, the kind of guy who waves every morning and makes small talk about the weather. But there was something about him that never felt quite right. One night, I decided to leave the backyard lights off and waited by the kitchen window, watching. I wanted to prove to myself that I was imagining things. It was past 2 a.m. when I saw a shadow moving near the fence. My heart pounded. The figure paused for a moment, as if listening, and then, without hesitation, someone climbed the fence with an eerie ease. My breath caught in my throat when I realized who it was. Mike. He jumped into my yard, crouching as if trying to avoid being seen. I stood there, frozen, watching as he slowly moved closer to my house, like he was making sure no one was awake. I didn't know what to do. My mind tried to justify what I was seeing. Maybe he was looking for something that had fallen on the wrong side of the fence. Maybe it was some kind of misunderstanding. But then, he started walking around my backyard, examining every corner, as if familiarizing himself with the space. He stopped near the back door, running his hand over the doorknob slowly, like he was testing if it was unlocked. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a mistake. He was trying to get in. Adrenaline surged through me, and without thinking, I slammed my fist against the window. The sound shattered the night's silence, and he froze for a second before turning his head toward me. What scared me the most was that he didn't react like someone caught in the act. He just stood there, staring directly at me, as if assessing the situation. I expected him to run, but he didn't. He stayed still, his expression completely blank. A second later, he started slowly backing away, never breaking eye contact, as if daring me to do something. My heart pounded so hard, I could hear it in my ears. I grabbed my phone and dialed the police without even thinking. Only when I put the phone to my ear did he finally turn and, with the same unsettling calm he had entered with, climbed back over the fence and disappeared into his yard. I stood there, still gripping my phone, not even sure what to say. I could call the police, but what exactly would I tell them? My neighbor jumped into my yard and just stared at me. It sounded ridiculous. But at the same time, deep down, I knew this wasn't something I could ignore. The next morning, I tried to act normal, but my body was still tense. I needed to confront him. I couldn't just pretend nothing had happened. So, I waited until I saw him in his yard, watering his plants like it was just another day. I walked up to the fence and called his name. Mike turned to me with a big smile on his face, as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't jumped that very same fence just hours before. "Hey man, how's it going?" His casual tone irritated me. I swallowed hard and got straight to the point. "I saw you in my yard last night." His smile vanished instantly. He blinked a few times, tilting his head like I had said something ridiculous. "What are you talking about?" He laughed, but it wasn't genuine. "I was sleeping, man. You must have seen something else." I didn't know what was worse, the fact that he was lying so blatantly, or the way he stayed calm, as if he knew I had no real proof. I stared at him, waiting for some kind of reaction that would give him away. But Mike just stood there, looking right back at me, that empty smile gone. I could feel the tension between us. I knew what I had seen, and he knew that I knew. But he wasn't worried at all. That unsettled me more than if he had freaked out or tried to explain himself. "Look, I'm just letting you know," I said, trying to keep my voice firm. "If I catch you again, I'm calling the cops." He let out a short laugh and stepped back, like he was amused. "All right, man, do what you gotta do." And without another word, he turned around and walked into his house. I stood there, a knot in my stomach. There was something wrong with him, something I couldn't explain. It wasn't just a weird neighbor or someone with bad habits. It was more than that. It was the feeling that he wasn't afraid. Not of me, not of the police, not of getting caught. After that day, something changed. It wasn't just the discomfort of knowing my neighbor had broken into my yard at night. It was the way he kept acting, like nothing had ever happened. But I knew he wanted me to know he was still around. Little things started happening. I'd step outside and smell cigarette smoke in the air, even though no one in my house smoked. Once, I found footprints in the dirt near the fence again, identical to the ones I had seen before. And then there was the worst of all. One morning, when I went outside to get the newspaper, I saw that my backyard gate was slightly open. I was absolutely certain I had locked it the night before. It didn't take long for my paranoia to take over. I started sleeping with a baseball bat next to my bed, double-checking every lock in the house every night before going to sleep. But even then, I felt like he was always nearby. I never saw him jump the fence again, but I knew he was still watching me. The tension between us grew more intense. Whenever we crossed paths, on the sidewalk, at the grocery store, even in the driveway, he would hold eye contact just a second longer than necessary, like he was waiting for something. I tried to ignore it, to act like I didn't care, but it was eating me up inside. It was a game, and he knew he was winning. The atmosphere became unbearable. I avoided going into my backyard at night, locked everything obsessively, and found myself staring at his house without realizing it. But then, out of nowhere, he started to change. Instead of keeping up his unsettling demeanor, he began ignoring me completely. He stopped greeting me, stopped looking in my direction. Nothing. It was like I had ceased to exist for him. I should have felt relieved, but instead, it made me even more uncomfortable. Because it didn't seem natural. It seemed intentional. And then, one day, he was just gone. No warnings, no goodbyes. I passed by his yard and saw the house empty, the windows open, and a moving truck loading up the last of his furniture. No one seemed to know where he had gone or why he had suddenly decided to leave. But I had a feeling this wasn't just some ordinary move. It wasn't because he got a better job or needed a bigger place. It was because he wanted to, because he had already had his fun. In the months that followed, I tried to move on, but sometimes I would still wake up in the middle of the night with the unsettling feeling that someone was in my yard. I forced myself to get up, look out the window, confirm that there was nothing there. But the truth is, every time I look at that fence, I still get a chill down my spine, as if at any moment I might see him again, standing there, watching me, as if he never really left.